This is day 13 of Unit 7. We started today with a ticket in the door, so you'll need to make that up if you missed class. After that, we did this warm-up. So pause the video, take a moment, try the warm-up, and then play to check your answers. So I need to start with the annual rate and get the quarterly multiplier. So 9 divided by 4 gives me 2.25%. I need to add that to 100, so 102.25%, and change to a decimal, so 1.0225. So that is my quarterly multiplier. So I have y equals 5,000 is the initial amount times 1.0225. And that's raised to the number of quarters because we're compounding quarterly. So if it's 12 years, that would be 12 times 4 is 48 quarters. So that's the equation that I need to type in the calculator. When I do that, I get approximately $14,548.20. That is the answer. Okay, and that was number 1. Number 2. I need to use the compounded continuously formula. So y equals p times e raised to the RT power. So the principal is 5,000 times e raised to the r is the rate as a decimal, so that's 0.09, and that's times the number of years, which is 12. And that's what I need to type in the calculator. When I do that, I'm getting $14,723.40. That's my answer for number 2. Okay. So today we did some problems where we need to figure out what the exponential equation is. So we know it's an exponential equation, f of x or y equals a b to the x. We know that's the general equation. We're given the base and we're given a point. So if I know the base, I can substitute that in for b. So y equals a I don't know, but b is 1/5, and that's raised to the x. So I'm going to substitute in the coordinate point for x and for y. So 0.36 is equal to a times 1/5, and that's raised to the second power because that's our x. So I can solve now. So I have 1/5 squared. Well, we know that that's 1/25. And now I'm ready to solve for a. So to get rid of the 25, we're going to multiply both sides by it. So times 25. So we're getting a is equal to, and that is 9. So we have y equals 9 times 1/5 raised to the x. That is our equation. Okay. Now, we know that that represents exponential decay because of the 1/5, the multiplier being less than 1. So I'm going to sketch because it asked for a sketch. Remember, sketch is not as precise as a graph, so we just need the y-intercept and the horizontal asymptote, which, looking at the equation, you hopefully realize it's 0 because there's nothing added on the end. So y equals 0. And the y-intercept is 0.9, so let's put that up there. And it's decreasing because of the 1/5. So I'm just going to make it go through that point and getting really close to the horizontal asymptote. There's my sketch. Okay. Next one. So this time it's also an exponential function again. So I am going to start with that same basic equation. And I was not told anything about the asymptote, so I'm to assume that it's just the basic one, y equals 0. I am given 2 points, so I'm going to substitute them in for x and for y one at a time. So 0.75 is equal to a I don't know, b I don't know, but x is 2. Now I have a second point, which means I'm going to write a second equation. So 0.1875 is equal to a I don't know, b I don't know, but the exponent is 4. So now that I have 2 equations, think about how you would solve a system of equations that's linear. You've been doing that for years, so you know elimination, substitution are our techniques. Because we have different exponents for the b's, it's probably easier to just use substitution and solve for a if you look at these equations, hopefully you're realizing that A is much easier to solve for than B would be. So always solve for A. Also, it's probably a little bit easier if you solve for A in the equation that involves the lower exponent. So I have a b squared and a b to the fourth. It's probably a little easier to solve for A in the one that has the lower exponent. It just makes simplifying easier, and you'll see that once we do it. So we're going to solve this left equation for A, and to do that, we're going to divide both sides by b squared. So I have A is equal to 0.75 divided by b squared. So now that I have A, I'm going to substitute that into the other equation for A. So I have 0.1875 is equal to A is 0.75 divided by b squared, and that's times b to the fourth. So I can put that over 1 if I want. So I have 0.75 b to the fourth over b squared. And hopefully you can see now, I don't know why my pen stopped working, but hopefully you can see now why it's going to be a little bit easier since we solved for the one with the smaller variable, because now we're dividing b to the fourth by b squared, just a little bit easier because now we have, we still have the variable in the numerator rather than in the denominator. So we have 0.1875 is equal to b to the fourth over b squared is b squared. So we have 0.75 b squared. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.75. And I get 1/4 when I do that, is equal to b squared. So then I can take the square root of that. And when I take the square root of that, I'm getting 1/2 on the left and the absolute value of b on the right. Now, we talked about the fact that the negative exponents with exponentials gets really weird. So even though, yes, you are getting plus or minus, we're going to disregard the negative 1/2, the negative base, and we're just going to use positive 1/2. So now that we have that base, we're going to substitute it back in to figure out the a value. Well, if you look through all of our steps here, the easiest place for us to substitute the b in would be right here where we already have an equation solved for a. So that's where we're going to put it. And I'm going to do this because we actually can do this without a calculator. So I know 0.75 is 3/4, and I know that b squared, I'm putting 1/2 in and squaring it. So that's 3/4 times, or divided by 1/2 squared, we know is 1/4. So that's 3/4 times 4/1, and we know that that equals 3. So a is 3. So now that I have a and I have b, I have my equation. Y equals 3 is a times b is 1/2, and that's raised to the x. And hopefully you remember that we can't multiply those. Order of operations says exponents come before multiplication, so I can't say that that's 3/2 to the x. That would be incorrect. So 3 times 1/2 to the x. Okay. One more for today. So this time, same idea. We have 2 points. It's an exponential function. But this time we have a horizontal asymptote that's specified. So that means this whole graph has been shifted from the original, the most basic exponential. It's been shifted up 10. So if it's been shifted up 10, hopefully you realize all that's going to do, a times b to the x, it's just going to put a plus 10 on the end. Okay, and hopefully that should make sense to you. We've discussed that previously. So now that I have that, now I can take the 2 points and substitute in and write 2 equations just like I did in the last problem. So that gives me 12.5 is equal to a times b to the 3rd power plus 10, and 11.25 is equal to a times b to the 4th power plus 10. Now, because of that plus 10, it makes it just a little bit more complicated, but we're going to get rid of that 10 very quickly here, right now, so that we can have it just like the last problem. So if I subtract 10 in both of these equations from both sides, then I have 2.5 equals a times b cubed, and I have 1.25 equals a times b to the 4th. So now I'm at the exact same place that we were in the last problem. So once again, I'm deciding which variable to solve for and which equation. So we definitely want to solve for a because that's easier. And let's solve for a in this equation here on the left because the exponent for the b is smaller. So I'm going to divide both sides by b cubed. Oops, not b. Sorry, that one. I didn't want to do that. I got carried away there. Let me erase that. I only wanted to do that in the one equation. So let me erase that. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to solve for a in both equations. So I have a equals 2.5 divided by b cubed. So that's going to go in for a here. So 1.25 is equal to a is 2.5 divided by b cubed times b to the fourth. So that gives me 1.25 equals, I can go ahead and I can see that this is just going to be that, 2.5 b to the fourth over b cubed. So the b to the fourth over the b cubed simplifies just to b. So I have 2.5 b equals 1.25. I'm going to divide both sides by 2.5. Hopefully you're recognizing the relationship between 1.25 and 2.5 is a half. And I don't even need a calculator. So, oops, the board never likes it when I get down here too low. So 1/2 is b. So now I'm going to substitute back in to solve for a. Remember, over here is the easiest spot. So 2.5. Actually, I'm going to rewrite that as a fraction, so I don't need to pick up a calculator. So 5/2 divided by b is 1/2, and that's cubed, means 5/2 divided by 1/8, which means 5/2 times 8 over 1. And the 8 and the 2 cancel out and become 4 and 1. So I have 5 times 4, which is 20, is equal to a. Okay, so now that I have my a and my b, I'm going to go back up here to the original. Y equals a, we just found out, is 20, times b, which is 1/2, and that's raised to the x, and plus 10 is on the end because of that asymptote. And that's our final answer. That is the equation. Remember, you can't multiply the 20 and the half because of order of operations. Your assignment is page 23, worksheet 8, problems 1 to 4, and worksheet 7, problems 10 to 13. Do those for tomorrow.